Now, you're responsible for implementing the bank's technological strategy, so you are the perfect person to be here with us for today. What I want to do is start with automation and first understand, kind of set the table. How are you incorporating automation into the National Bank of Canada? And what was the thought process behind it?
Obviously, automation has always been part of, if you're part of a technology team, it's always been part of your DNA, I would say, and part of what you need to do. We've talked about, over the past few years, a lot about cloud transformation, digitization, but it all goes through and follows through a process of automation. So CI/CD pipeline and all of that, it simplifies the way that the technology team works. So technology has been at the forefront, I would say, of pushing the automation. I'm also accountable for the operations, so the back office at National Bank. So I have a lot of tasks and employees that do manual tasks. So automation has been a lever for us in order to accelerate and provide a much better customer service, to eliminate as much as possible all these little manual tasks that were, at the end adds up to create either quality or time constraint to our customers. So we've done a lot of thinking around that, and I would say the switch that we've done over the past 2 years is that I've put into the forefront simplification of the product offering from a customer point of view. So instead of just looking at these are all the tasks that I need to automate, I would look at it and say, if I automate all of this, I don't create a lot of value for the customer. So let's look at our product offering, our processes, simplify that, and what's left, then I can automate. So that has been a huge, I would say, shift that we started 2 years ago. Simplification was not the word that would come out of the mouth of all my colleagues in the business unit. Today, that's all they talk about, because they see the benefit of simplifying the way that they work and how we can leverage and impact positively the customer experience, but our employee as well.
Right, and you kind of touched upon this a little bit. Can you ever over-automate?
I don't think you can over-automate, but if you do it in the sense of that's the only purpose, then you're missing the point. At the end of the day, whatever that we do in our business, we serve customer. So we need to make sure that whatever that we do creates value for the customer. So if you over-automate things and the customer doesn't see any benefit, then perhaps you need to ask yourself, why have I done this? If it doesn't create, and obviously in these days, there's a lot of pressure on our cost structure. So obviously there's an aspect of that, but at the end of the day, you need to balance both, and you need to make sure that sometimes, getting to 100% automated is not feasible,
right,
or doesn't make any sense from a cost point of view.
So can you give any examples, anything you've heard of where areas where maybe it wasn't the right fit for, and then a fit where it was the right fit?
So I think we started at the beginning of all this process review. We were looking at identifying, put our pink glasses on and identified what's the ideal target state for some of these processes. And we spent a lot of time doing that and understanding, the macro details of all the processes. At the end of the day, we realized that, yes, it's great to do that, but it's a North Star that we're never going to meet, because getting 100% automated, as I mentioned, is quite difficult. So instead we've used, and I'm leveraging a little bit of the AI follow-up conversations, but we've leveraged process mining type of work that we've done with AI that actually ingest all the data, let's say, for example, from our CRM, our origination system, and really identified in our processes where is the bigger bang for the buck. And we target those. So if I know, for example, in mortgage origination, in this piece of the process, this is where, let's say, for example, 30% of all our account opening are following Happy Path. 30%. Okay, hold on a second. If it's 30%, then we're doing something wrong. So what are we doing wrong? Is it the product? Is it the process? So, and that's how we leverage, and we realize that there's a lot of value in doing that, instead of just identifying tasks and automating them.
How is it changing the way you do business?
It's changing tremendously the way that we do business. So obviously, it changes the way we offer product to our customer. It changes as well the life of our employees that have been doing the same thing for a long time. So it's easier to fill in a form, a paper form, ship it to the operation, and someone will keep punching it in. Now we're not doing that. We're saying you need to teach the customer how to do it online themselves. So then everything else is automated in the background. So from a customer point of view, you get your response right away. You get whatever product that you ordered, you get it right, much easier than filling in a form with the delays of it. But it's a lot of training for our front office to say, oh, we're looking at things a lot differently. The first reaction of people in saying, well, let's do a digital form instead of a paper form. That's not simplifying and automating completely. That's doing one step. That's not pulling it to the end and making sure that we value and we bring a lot of value to the customer.
Now, there's a lot of data coming in.
Yes.
Yes, so how do you deal with, I know there's concerns about privacy. How do you deal with all the data?
So obviously, I work in financial services, so it's a very strictly and highly regulated environment. So we have tight controls on where the data resides, and it's within our environment. So we don't, so we talk about ChatGPT and all these new technology that has been made available. There's a lot of questions around privacy, IP as well. So whatever that we do, it's within our environment, cloud or data center, and we make sure that we have tight controls over that. And consent of the customer to share information or not is tightly managed, because trust is at the soul and heart of what we do. Banking, we trust our banks, so we want to make sure that, and we make sure that it's tight.
Right. I want to get to AI too. We're going to dig into that too. Technology always evolving. How do you create that culture within your corporation for people to understand where the change is going? Because sometimes change is difficult and it's hard to understand. How do you get people to get on board with it?
We have a very entrepreneurial spirit at National Bank, so I would say it's probably more the opposite.
Okay.
I have to explain in a little bit to what was said in introduction. Like everybody gets, oh, this is great, this is fun, let's deploy this right away. How come it's not, Julie, go to the board and say what we're going to be doing with this? So, so I think that, which is great, but I think it's more containing that. I think also from a technology point of view, it's part of our profession. We need to be always looking forward. So we need to bring to the table these new technology, but always in the mindset of, what business value does it bring, so that it doesn't become a new widget, a new something, a shiny object that technology has built that no one uses. So really always have that correlation between business need and technology. I think it's great. And I think what really makes it perhaps more successful that I tell my team on the technology side, and I've said this many times in previous engagement, you need to be bilingual. You need to speak business, you need to speak technology. You have to do both. If you only speak technology, you're never going to get the buy-in and understand the value that the automation, the AI can bring to the table.
Excellent. I want to get to an audience question too that we have coming in. As we navigate waves of disruption, how can large organizations accelerate innovation while protecting the core business?
So there's many ways. I think there's many companies that try different avenue. I am not a firm believer of having one single team that does lab and innovation, where they're the innovators while everybody else needs to go through and submit an idea. And I find that it kills innovation. So I prefer to have innovation within the different teams, but we provide framework and guidelines that needs to be followed. So for example, when ChatGPT was made public in November last year, we did not close it down right away. We've said, here's the guidelines in order to use it. But we monitor you and we check you. So if you try to do something that you should not be doing, because we told you not to do that, we'll catch you. So
you've been warned.
And you've been warned, and they've been caught. So I think that's how we do it. Again, I think it's our profession as technology to always look forward to see what are the new things coming in. I also think it needs to be balanced, because I was at a conference last week in Silicon Valley, and someone said, you know, the 10,000 proof of concept is a killer, because if you try many things, you lose track of what you need to do. So you need to concentrate on a few things. Fail fast again. So if you try it, it doesn't work, then try something else, which is good, but always, you know, within a framework and guidelines. I think that's the key. And you federate innovation. If you try to concentrate it, then it creates a lot more friction, I find.
Now, what's one of the biggest challenges you have within your company and how do you feel like automation or AI can help alleviate that challenge?
So it's a big challenge, but it's a great opportunity at the same time. Mm-hmm. So on the, obviously automation, we've done a lot of work on that. On the AI side, I'll say we've been doing traditional AI, so credit modeling, chatbots. We've been doing that for quite some time. Right. I find the new generative AI brings something completely new to the table. It's still very focused on text and unstructured data, but it will evolve to be something else. But it's a huge lever, I would say, for efficiency. So if you don't specifically are attached to a product, but the concept of co-piloting, which, you know, is not necessarily just Copilot from GitHub from a software development point of view, or even Office 365, but having that helps you along the way to create text, to create documents, that is huge and helpful from a customer service point of view, call center modernization, which we're right into. Same thing with knowledge management, finding information. These are all capabilities that generative AI can definitely, when it's structured and organized the way that you do and protect your data, obviously, is a huge leverage. So we've done a lot of proof of concept. We've deployed some of these capabilities. We monitor the efficiency that it brings, and then we make sure that we monitor that continuously. And we've seen it's a huge uplift. It doesn't change the work. So a lot of, you know, obviously, the first reaction from employees is, oh my God, like, is my job jeopardized?
I was just going to get to that. Thank you.
But yes. So from a software development point of view, what I said to them is, if you don't use it, yes, your job will be jeopardized. You need to use it, because that's, you know, the people that don't use it will get behind very quickly in a year or two from now, not having tested those new skill sets that are required, prompt engineering and all of that. You need to use it. And then in 6 months, you're going to be a lot better. In a year, you're going to be a lot better. So you need to right away start using it.
So is it finding new roles?
I think it's an evolution of the current role. Mm-hmm. I think that obviously, even if I think about from a more of a business point of view, on the operations side, or even if you know, writing documents, business analysts and all of that, their job is going to change. They're still going to do the same output, but they might use different tools now in order to, you know, create a story, create the business requirement. There's a lot of tools now that help you do that and automate that. You still need someone to validate it. So their job is going to be a little different, but still required. I do not believe at this point that we could say, you know, AI is going to cut down completely and reduce by, you know, X number of resources completely at the end. I think it's more of a shift in skill set.
Now, last time we talked, you were on the board of the Center for Research for AI, is that correct?
Yes, in Montreal, yes.
Perfect. So what can you tell us about just Canada's overall AI ecosystem? What, as far as regulations, what are your concerns?
So obviously Canada is well recognized worldly on AI. We have great mindsets that are originated from Montreal, but also from Toronto. And we have created a community, I think, where I was in San Francisco last week, they were referencing the AI community here in Canada. So that's something that we need to be really proud of. So we've done a lot of it. I think from a regulation point of view, we're probably still a little behind. And again, we need to find our ways and perhaps accelerate some of those. So again, when I was last week in Silicon Valley, there was the Attorney General of the United States on stage talking about the issues and the challenges that they have in the US, which are things that we see that we haven't seen yet in Canada. So lawsuits against, obviously, OpenAI, Microsoft, and all of those things. We haven't seen those. We look at, from a remote from Canada, we look at those and we say, okay, it might happen to us as well. So I think we need to get into that, setting up having those conversations with the different levels of government and entities and making sure that we accelerate, because it's not coming, it's here.
It's here, correct. I want to get to another question from the audience. What role, if any, can large language models or AI improve communication between or migration away from legacy IT?
That's an excellent question. So I think there's lots that needs to be done. And you know, over the past 2 years, I've been asked, what's your strategy to modernize your core banking? And the strategy was mostly around how do I move my mainframe and ecosystem into either a new core banking or something completely different. And I think what I've observed in the past few months, which is not still, I would say, industrialized and ready to be production ready, I think there's a lot of new capabilities that to me are probably the angle of my strategy that I'm going to use moving forward. So instead of, it's not translating COBOL into something new, it's rewriting COBOL. So ingesting millions and millions of lines of code and and creating something completely new in a more modernized language, I think is something that it will be a game changer.
And that was my kind of follow-up and final question is for you. Where do you see the future of it going, let's say 10 years from now, 20? I mean, everything's happening so fast as it is.
Actually, it's a very good question, and I don't know. I really don't. I think there's so many things that we haven't yet grasped. I think there's lots of really bright individuals that are looking at what's ahead, what's coming ahead. As I mentioned, we talk about generative AI mostly on text, but there's visual and images and voice and all of that is coming. Imagine the power of merging all of these together. Right. I think this is exciting time.
And what about those coming up? Colleges, are they incorporating this into their curriculum? Do you see that from the next generation coming in?
So that's a challenge, I would say, because even today, students that are coming out of programs from universities, let's say from a cloud point of view, are very limited. It's very generic. They're still very skilled, a lot of skills, but it's generic. So it's the industry that needs to train them specifically on these types of technologies. So I find that AI is going to be something a little similar. That being said, the framework, how you conceptually build it, that definitely the university and colleges have already started to do some of the shifts. But there's lots of work that needs to be done.